This Jets offense is terrible. And to be honest, Aaron Rodgers has to wear a little bit of this. Nathaniel Hackett
you guys are ridiculous.
Stinks. Nathaniel Hackett stinks. Having Zach Wilson, if Rodgers in any way played into the Jets not getting a more competent backup quarterback, not just Wilson, but Tim Boyle too. These hand-picked Rodgers guys who he just wanted around him, as opposed to, I don't know, an actual competent backup quarterback who could, I don't know, maybe win some games for you, meaningful games, ones that are, going to take a little bit more than just the defense carrying you the whole way.
So if the Jets had worked, say everything went great this year and they were 13-4, would you guys say, oh, Aaron Rodgers built a great team? So how can you blame him for the personnel mistakes? This is a general manager and a coach and an owner. You're saying they're so weak that they got pushed around by their free agent acquisition quarterback? That's a problem in itself.
Of course they did. They handed the reins over to Rodgers.
He brought in 2 wide receivers. Who cares? Alan Lazard's not that bad, by the way.
He was bad last night.
He's that bad that night, but Zach Wilson is a problem. He does not throw a catchable pass. If Alan Lazard had a good quarterback, he'd probably look fine.
Here's the question. Why do you think when Rodgers goes down the 4th play of the year, why do you think they never brought in a better backup quarterback?
I don't know. Well, because they were tanking and they wanted Caleb Williams next year. I have no idea why.
No, they have Rodgers for next year. I think the reason why is twofold. Either ego and hubris that they could fix Zach Wilson and he would look better. So that's misguided. That's a check mark against the front office. Or they didn't want to tick off Rodgers by bringing in somebody. We talked about this with the Kirk Cousins thing. Oh, do you bring in Rodgers or you bring in Kirk Cousins? You trade something away to bring him in. And what if you start winning with Kirk Cousins? Is the fan base going to be divided? You're going to bring basically another dude into this cocoon that Aaron Rodgers has created in his image.
This is excuse making for a Jets franchise that has been woebegone for too many years. You're telling me that Aaron Rodgers is at fault for last year or the year before that or all the other failures? This is an organization that has organizational dysfunction, and Aaron Rodgers thinks he can save it. Guess what? Aaron Rodgers comes back next year, they'll find a whole new set of problems. There's something wrong with the Jets. If my buddy Joe Douglas had left the Eagles and asked me where should I go, I would have said not the Jets, because there's something that's rotten in the water in Florham Park, New Jersey. There's just something wrong with this team. And it's you can't blame Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard are not the reason this offense stinks.
No, it was they were doing whatever Rodgers wanted them to do.
What give me specifics.
Nathaniel Hackett. They brought him specifically. This is the second franchise. The Denver Broncos did it, and now the Jets did it, specifically to lure Aaron Rodgers away. Nathaniel Hackett is not good without Aaron Rodgers. And that's been proven over his career in the NFL.
Did you say this in August when they hired Nathaniel Hackett and everybody was high on? Were you saying this is a huge mistake? I can't believe they brought back Nathaniel Hackett.
I thought it only works with Rodgers. So no, it's not a mistake. But now you're figuring that it is, because he's not a good offensive play caller without Rodgers there. This is like Adam Gase was not a good offensive play caller when Peyton Manning wasn't there to make up for mistakes. It's like Josh McDaniels with Tom Brady, these guys who get to work with these all-time great quarterbacks, you take them away, and I think they get exposed. And it was this whole season was set up for Rodgers, but that all changed in a flash early in the season, and the Jets did nothing about it, and I think it was to placate Rodgers.
Yeah, and watch him go ahead and win 8 games because the NFL is bonkers, by the way.
It might be.
They
could have won more.
Last night, the Chargers, I think we took the Chargers a little too lightly by thinking the Jets were going to. A lot of people were saying the Jets were going to win that game. The Chargers
they weren't favored, though.
What was the spread?
I thought it was the Chargers +3? Was the Chargers -3?
I thought it was 2.5.
Okay.
I think it was 2.5.
3.5. 3.5 was the number yesterday.
Close
So, yeah, I mean, that's super tight. I think this Chargers team has shown all of a sudden they can play defense. The first half, they were the worst.
Zach Wilson.
No, they've been really good. The last 3 weeks, they've played great defense. And now that Bosa and Mack have figured it out, I think that was a tough matchup for the Jets. And the Chargers are super desperate because they're actually playing to do something in the playoffs, unlike the Jets, who are going to creep and crawl to 8 bizarre wins. So I think the Chargers, we're not giving them enough credit in this formula. That pass rush was ridiculous last night. I mean, Aaron Rodgers would have left in a body bag.
Oh, well, that's true, too. I mean, he's going to come back from this Achilles injury, and there's video of him talking to Derwin James on the field after the game, and James says, when are you coming back? And he goes, in a couple weeks. Now, he might have just been saying that, not knowing there was a camera on him and just talking, But if he is coming back, that offensive line better figure out some stuff and fast, because putting a, compromised near 40-year-old quarterback behind that offensive line is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I think they're going to win these games anyway because Tua looks terrible right now. Atlanta is terrible. Houston is coming to New York, and C.J. Stroud, as good as he was against the Bucs, it's totally different when you're facing the Jets. I think they end up with 8 really weird wins. I don't even think, by the way, I don't believe Rodgers that he's coming back in 2 weeks. I don't think he's going to feel confident enough on that leg to come out here, no matter what the schedule is. But I do think the Jets are going to trip into some the way they beat the Eagles 20-6 here, the way they beat the Bills.
Yeah,
they're going to get
defense.
Even last night, there was a moment. Did you guys have a moment where you thought the Jets might come back and win that game?
Absolutely not.
Oh, but it was 20-6, and the Chargers had a bunch of 3-and-outs, and the Jets were driving. I was saying to myself, oh, the Chargers are doing what the Bills did and what the Eagles did. They are taking this team lightly, and they're basically running into the line every play. I thought there was a moment. I actually put a live bet on that one. I actually thought I was going to win it.
Because there's no way that Zach Wilson can make you pay on the other end. And what
but
happened?
He did against the Bills and he did against the Jets.
Okay, but
the Eagles.
The Eagles, but that and what ended up happening on that drive? Turnover.
Yeah, and from the moment for me was 17-3. They're driving, and I thought, okay, here it is. Like, they actually moved the ball. It's probably the best drive of the night.
Oh, coming out of half?
And then Zach Wilson takes that crippling sacks
back
near the road, near the red zone. I said, this is it.
They actually almost were crippling. I actually wondered if he was going to stand up from that second one.
Oh, he got crushed.
I mean, he's asked to throw the ball 49 times last night. That's crazy.
It isn't amazing.
You're asking Zach Wilson to throw the ball 50 times. That's how do you think he's not going to make mistakes by asking him to throw that much? I know you're trailing.
Thanks, Nathaniel Hackett, a.k.a. Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly. Like Nathaniel Hackett, this all stinks, man. It's not creative at all.
His final line was 33 for 49 for 263 yards, 0 TDs, and 0 interceptions. How is that possible?
Okay, because this had a little bit of an Eli Manning line at the end. Yeah. He probably did he gain 100 yards on the last 2 drives?
Oh, okay. It's amazing.
When the Chargers took Bosa and Mack out of the game, they picked up, I think he drove like 80 yards on the final drive.
Thing, how did Justin Herbert only throw for 136 yards?
The defense is really good.
The defense was great last night.
Really good.
No, I'm just saying, even though, but 136, I didn't think Justin Herbert looked bad last night.
Oh, I didn't think he looked great. But
he didn't look great, but it didn't look like a bad Justin Herbert game.
To your point, the receiver core is just not. They can show up in flashes, like Keenan Allen had this unbelievable catch on the sideline that was wild.